that took a bit longer than usual. Right, so we're live. Let me just quickly kill my Spotify. I hope everyone's doing alright. A second, let me just make some space. There we go. Alright, cool. So I worked on this guy a little bit off stream. I'll do the kind of formalities now, 1 second. Because I always like to do this at the start of every stream. So this is the concept we're working from. It's by an artist called Sam Rowan. For anyone, if anyone new to the stream jumps in this video, yeah, it's by a guy called Sam Rowan. If you go to the first line of the description of this video, you can get a link to his art page. I do recommend checking out his work. And let me just get Pure Ref open actually. Give it just a second. There we go. So, right, there we go. That's everything sorted. But yeah, so as I said, worked on this off stream. Sorry, it's getting on my reference. There we go. Cool. So yeah, you'll probably notice the first thing though is that we're rendering grey now. We went through and re-rendered the kind of progression images all in grey. Because although I personally don't always work with a grey shader, I like having even proxy shaders on there. I guess it is easier for other people to see. So this is where we were at the start of the last stream that we did together. And then last night I spent, I think, 2 hours primarily working on the back of the head, so you don't see it in the progression images. But I've kind of smoothed out. Oh, that's not what I want. Let me just set that to 1. Kind of smoothed out the ears, so I kind of worked on the clumping for that. I also added guides to the front of the ears now, so we got it's not as like kind of broken at the front. Changed the clumping maps a little bit on the ears as well. Hey Rima. For the actual head itself, primarily just guide breakup. I didn't actually do that much to the modifiers. I did change the noises. Oh, sorry, the clumps. So there's a little bit of noise on the second layer of clumps, so the smaller of the 2 clumps. Other than that, it's almost entirely guide work. So I did quite a bit of guide work at the front, but mostly again at the back. So this is kind of where we're at so far. In terms of today, I'll probably do a quick tweak on the yeah, this is with depth of field because it's from the progression images, but I'll tweak the whiskers because to me they don't feel like they should be pointing out. I should feel like I should have some that are going down and up and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, so we've also updated the kind of preview. I like to do this quite a lot when I'm working on grooms. I normally have, at least professionally, I used to use this kind of color quite a lot. It's visually very easy to understand. So I don't really like working with grey in scenes. So yeah, just like a nice aqua, like teal type thing. It works quite well. But yeah, so the main thing we did was, if I get the guides up, I started going in and really getting groups of guides and kind of curling them, and because I want to force some structure in the hair without using guide clumping, because I really hate using guide clumping. So I'm going to avoid it as much as I can. I will have to use it in the end, I think, for this side section, unless I want to do a lot of guides. I think we can decide on that later. But yeah, so I've started going in and getting kind of, you know, like groups of guides that all move together, like these sorts of guys, adding some curl, not just sideways but also outwards and inwards, just to get some real breakup in the hair surface. Still got quite a lot of guide work to do, but you know, we're starting to get something more interesting now. But yeah, I do need to add quite a lot more depth to these. Like this one, for example, well, these 2 really should be pulled up to match this guy a little bit. But yeah, so and for the ears, if I get back to those, give that a second. There we go. And then the ears, I did a little bit of guide work, as I said, but primarily it's modifier work. So yeah, I brought some at the front, added a few extra guides in the middle just to give more information. I do need to add some guides here. But most of it was kind of painting maps and adjusting the clumping, so now it's a bit softer on most of the head. You know, we've added strays and all that sort of stuff. Also a tiny little bit of blending with the head, but not much. That's primarily in the head groom, to be honest. And then if I go back to the head groom for a second, we've added a few more layers of guides at the front just to really kind of define the shape. I do have a ton of work still to go, but we'll get to that as time goes on. But yeah, so if anyone has any questions as I go, do let me know. I'll just kind of get on with working on this. So let me just get the right reference. So the primary reference I've been working from, obviously other than that concept, the one that I've got the most inspiration from flow-wise is this line. I think like the way it has these random patches that like twisty and curly is really interesting to me. We're not going to match this hair quality just because it's a bit too coarse for my taste. I think for final hair quality, probably go something at the front more like this, and then kind of I like this smooth, coarse, and then like really frizzy bit, like this blend that happens. See how there's like a lot more noise in the clumps in this section and not over here. So I want to get a bit more of that in the final groom. Also that's kind of gross. Ticks in his ears, someone just noticed. But yeah, so let's just get that image back up. Where is it? Why is it not going to that image? This one. But yeah, so let's put that over on the screen. And get on with it, basically. So we definitely need some guides in this area here. However, I need to check the other side because it looks to me like we're missing guides on this left side. I probably accidentally deleted some stuff at some point. So I think it's this guide that's missing. So let's mirror him over. Yeah, it was him. Any others? I think that's all of them. Because I am working pretty much entirely asymmetrically at this point. So I'm going to only mirror guides if it means getting the length correct. So let's start. Need to pick a new flow to pick out. Let's go with... See, that's going to have a parting, so that's fine. New subscriber. That's cool. 1 second. I've got another reference I need to get. I did do a super basic like paint. When I say super basic though, I mean like incredibly basic. Just wanted to figure out general flows and directions I wanted to go. So I'll use that as ref as well. Bring that onto the other screen. So let's start. First thing I'll do is I want to warp him a bit more. And I'm not going to care too much about intersections at this point. Like I'm just going to push and pull stuff around. I can always fix it later. I think that's something I've mentioned in other streams as well, but it's something that if you're a beginner artist, just don't be afraid of fucking up. Like just throw yourself at it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. You can always fix the technical details afterwards. So I'm just going to do something like, let's do something like have it point back into the hair. And I'm going to have to pull him down to kind of get him out of the way a little bit. And then let's add some more guides to help define that. So just to kind of cheat it, what I'll do is use the target guide. So that's target, move selected. And then I'm going to sculpt him just so he's not perfectly matching. And let's droop him a bit, the root, just so we get more of like a cone shape for the whole groom, or for the whole section of the groom. That will do for that one. Let's get a guide here. But yeah, I quite like placing my guides in clusters. I tend to find it's kind of the poor man's approach to guide clumping if you don't want to do guide clumping. It's only really something I'd do in XGen just because it has that target guides tool. I wouldn't really do this in other tools. I'd use XGen to kind of block out guides for this sort of stuff. That's way too flat now, look at that. But yeah, like if you want to force a shape but you don't want to create really unnatural looking clumps, then this sometimes is a pretty nice way of doing it. It depends on your workflow though. Some people love guide clumps and they have their place. They're definitely incredibly helpful, especially for animated style characters. But if you're wanting to do something realistic, I heavily recommend against guide clumping. But that can be enough to kind of pull a shape out. Yeah, we're getting it there. The sides are going to be a tricky one. This entire section is going to be a nightmare. I also need to do a lot of work to get this to look more interesting. But we'll take it one problem at a time. So let's go a bit more extreme with you. These curls I'm doing aren't necessarily what hair would do in these areas. I'm going to manually sculpt that one. I just want to get an interesting flow. I'm not really too worried about the physical accuracy at this stage. Like, I can always correct shapes later, but the thing is, like, hair can be really weird. So, like, if you think a flow looks unnatural, like, you know, it possibly is unnatural, but if you think it looks impossible, then you're probably wrong. Hair can do really weird shit. Also just realised that I still need to limit Maya before it eats the computer. Maya's got a lovely tendency of crashing when I'm using, like crashing the whole computer when I'm using OBS. So I just tend to turn it off 6 of the cores. So my CPU's got a lot of breathing room. Cool. So this feels a bit short. Let's pull that a bit longer. One important thing to note is, although I'm placing like little clusters of guides, I do try to have like gaps between them. Having those gaps just gives XGen room to interpolate, because if I had like cluster after cluster placed directly next to each other, then ultimately I may as well just do guide clumping. But if I don't do it like that, if I do allow XGen some breathing room, it can actually produce like natural shapes between them. Just that. Now let's cross those over a bit, shall we? Nah, it doesn't look right. Yeah, see how we're starting to get, although it's not exactly matching the guides, we're forcing those flows in, so now we can get basically like huge breaks in the flow without needing guide clumping, and as a result it feels a lot more natural to me. I'm pretty sure Natrix has like a tool for that, where you can just directly pull like tell guides to be like incredibly strong in their influence, because that's kind of the problem, is because guides are just guides, they don't really force their shape on hairs unless the hair is at the exact root position on a guide. So unless you've got a control over the amount of guide influence, you're never going to really match them exactly. So you do sometimes find you have to go more extreme with guides than you would do with the actual hair, or place them in clusters, which really forces your groom tool. It doesn't matter what groom tool it is, I think this applies to all of them, to be honest. Place them in clusters will kind of force the shapes. Cool, that's working. Let's get a bit of a curl. Let's figure out something here. So we have some cool flows. We got, let's switch to easier to see color. Let's go with red or orange. So we got this guy. We've got this guy. We got that guy. This is a bit weak. Maybe it'd be better if it did something like that. That could be interesting. So that as a whole is quite interesting to me, this area. I also quite like this like shelf thing that we got going on. I think that's really cool. But this area then just goes lump, like it's kind of dull. For some reason my undo cue doesn't always work in my, again while I'm streaming. I don't know if OBS. Hey guys, thanks Jordan. I'm glad you like them. But yeah, so for this area, we've got cool flows all around it, lots of interesting shapes, and we just have nothingness in this area. So I feel like either we go really extreme and get two complete like curls, something like that, but then that feels a bit too chaotic to me. So let's undo that. How about we have that curl out, you curl S bend down. I think that could be more interesting. So we just need to force a curl here and not make it interesting, and then we need to lower this section. So let's lower that section first, because that's probably the easiest one to do, because you can actually see it right there, how boring that is. So these guides, we just need to make them flatter, have them kind of come out more vertically, something like that, and that might look super interesting. Emphasis on might, as I always say, like I don't always know exactly what I'm doing, and it's kind of part of the fun of it. Just throw yourself at something. If it doesn't work, then cool, it doesn't matter. Hey Ian. So we needed a guide here to really break this area up. Let me just show the hair again to figure out where it was. I think it's this guide. Yeah, it is that guide. So we need him to be really extreme. He's also really long for that area. But let's just go... Yeah, let's have it flick out as well, actually. So this won't have done much just because it's one guide on its own. It's got some flicks though. I guess because it's got this this cluster here kind of going in a similar direction. Let's create a little bit of a gap between those though. So if I target this guy, not you though, there we go. Move him. So that will force a bit of a fork in the road for these guys. It doesn't necessarily make much sense. It didn't really do as much as I hoped. So we might need some more guides to really get that shape in. Although, to be fair, this doesn't make much sense on its own. So let's pull that out. Just have the hair drop. And then, I guess, add a guide there. Move you to target. And again, that's not what I want. So let's do that's something. Not interesting enough for me though. There we go. Bit of a nicer curl to that. Does it work? I'm not sure. I think these two shapes, so if we follow, we've got this set of guides here, which are kind of making that, and then we've got these guides here that are flowing almost directly into it. I'm not sure that works. But then I don't just want to bend these out of place, because then we'll probably start getting some issues. Unless again I flick here, but then we're getting a bit repetitive on the upwards flicks. And repetition can be fine, but now it's just flowing into this shape. So let's see if that works. Not having an undo key right now is really nerve-wracking, to be honest. I'm going to save a version. So let's show the groom. Interpolation to the rescue. That looks like it's actually working a bit more interestingly now. You got that upwards flow. We've got some interesting flows in this area now. We need more stuff going on in this region now. So I feel like the back of it is now starting to get interesting enough for us to kind of leave alone for a bit. This section at the top is awful. This is really bad. Granted, it should be, because it's probably the bit we've had spent the least time on. We need a lot more guide work, because it's an area of complexity, so you can't get away with just having, you know, 1 or 2 guides. He's too short. That's one of the issues. I'm going to grab all these guides. There we go. Scale those up as well. Let's just see how they work with just scaling up. Even just scaling them up on its own kind of helps, but it's still kind of a boring area flow-wise. This is the biggest issue though, the crown. I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to tackle that yet. One of the things I know I have to do is paint out the clumps of that area, and what I mean by that is not turn off clumping, but actually paint out the clumps in that region. So if I grab clump, well, actually I don't think that will make a difference. No, it's not this one, it is the clump above it. Okay. So what I need to do is, if I preview the guides, this is previewing the clump curves themselves, so what I need to do is paint out any clumps that kind of sat in this middle section. So like this guy, could add a guide to him, because he's getting averaged into nothingness really. Let's add a guide for him actually. Let's go right there. So that's what hairs in that region would do. Again, like if anyone hasn't caught this in previous live streams I've done, something to be very aware of in XGen, and I think really with any tool. Guides are just hairs, that's all they are. So with XGen, when you interpolate a guide, or when you place a guide and it does that automatic interpolation, that's not some special treatment, it's actually just doing the exact same shape that a hair in that area would do. So if you've got hairs in a particular region doing very weird shapes, just put a guide where they are and tell it what shape it should be doing. That's like one of the key things I think to really understanding guide work. It really helps a lot. Let's pull that up. I want this to be like super tall in the middle. Not really a shelf like that, but you get the general point. Maybe not that tall. Okay, cool. So let's pick another spot. Let's go with you. Cool. And then let's again scale him, guides, and pick a direction for him to go. Maybe he can go forward actually, this guy. It's good to have some crossover. Maybe forward and then out to the side, like with these guys. Because like obviously these two guides now are like almost 90 degrees from each other, but sometimes that can be helpful. Because it really forces XGen to do some crazy shit. So something like that could be quite, maybe even have it curl back on itself a little bit. This will be a interpolation nightmare, but it could look quite cool. I think these guides are a bit too short. Definitely need a lot more guide work in this area, just because again it is such a complex region. I will be doing like clusters of guides again. Face 984 has coincident guides. Okay, so there's a duplicate guide in there somewhere. I need to find a face, whatever number that was. Cool. So that already helps. That helps a lot. Still not perfect, but let's preview guides again. So we've got another hair appearing right there. So let's just paste. This should be the last one because I don't want to do that many guides. Like it's getting a bit intense now. But let's just get some real kind of chaos going in here. I've always been one for guide work rather than modifier work. I do need to figure out how I can change the colors of guides so that I can group these and visually understand them a bit better. But do we have him crossover? But yeah, like in my head, like modifiers are never as easy to control as guides are. So you always want to keep as much control over your groom as you can. That doesn't mean you should do like ridiculous amounts of guides. I'd say this is a moderate amount of guides. You can get way more intense. But like I'd rather do these cluster guides rather than clump noise to get these shapes, because clump noise you're never going to get the same results twice, and in some ways that's a good thing, but in the ways of being a strong artist I feel like you need to be able to get the results yourself and understand them and get them to work. Maybe not a mentality that everyone will agree with. There's probably artists out there that are better than I can ever be who will disagree with that completely, but it works for me, at least I think it does. So let's scale him up. We need to break the flow in that area because that area is really boring. The disadvantage to having a lot of guides is you're less nimble to changes. So if I want to change my flow in this area, I just need to wipe all the guides, like completely delete them. Let's do that. Save that. Right, how's it going? I also need to look into adding a third layer of clumping. That's something I'll do once I've got the general structures worked out. I need to get rid of this guy as well, he's kind of gross. And I've already got enough guides in that area. Well, we can add another guide in here, but I'll avoid that for now. It's not the biggest of issues in the groom. Something I'll do as well, I'll do a quick preview render at the back, just to show you guys generally what stage we're at. So let's go into rotate the lights. Let's do an angle like that. In fact, I'm going to zoom in quite a lot. I'm also going to hide the body groom, just so it doesn't render. Where is it? Third body. Cool. And let's do an IPR on that. While that goes, check some notifications. So the actual texture of the hair is awful. We got huge gaps where we don't want them. Like this stuff is hideous, but we're starting to get some interesting shapes. This bit is working quite well. This flow here is working well. This is a bit too strong, but generally it's starting to get interesting. Again, we really need to fix this area, like really close it up. Maybe do some crazy swirls to completely break it. But then once we start adding breakup to the hair, that will kind of naturally start to solve itself as well. I'll let that clean up for a little bit. In fact, actually no I won't. I'll region render. So let's see what this area is doing properly, shall we? I also think along the line, along the way, I kind of accidentally got the noise settings spot on what I want, because I'm starting to get these sorts of like curls, which to get in strays is really, really nice. I do like flowy strays. Like if I draw a stray, that's normally how I draw it. This is so bad though. Alright, and what's this area down here doing? Let's just widen that. Let that region clean up for a bit. I can't move the camera annoyingly, so I can't go into my If I move the camera on while I'm doing an IPR, I normally get crashes, which is really annoying. This computer should be more than powerful enough, but I think it's just a general stability issue. Yeah, I'm really liking some of these direction changes now. They look cool. This straight section here is really not that nice. It's like got a square profile to it. That needs, it doesn't need to be as extreme as these, but it needs some kind of directional change. Otherwise, it's just, I'm gonna hate it. It's gonna drive me mad. Thanks for all the sessions, Rowan. I'm not called Rowan. Rowan is the guy who painted the concept. You can find a link to his. You can find a link to his page in the first line description. My name's MikeCauchi. But yeah. But I'm glad you like them though. Right, so let's end that. But yeah, so I think in terms of notes for myself, I'm going to quickly break this straight section here because that's going to drive me slightly insane. I think other than that, this lower section is working pretty well. We do need to start killing these gaps, which is going to be a bit tricky, I think, but because these are quite substantial gaps, we might need to really crank the hair density and add some strays. But yeah, let's break that first because that's a really quick thing to do. So, or at least I hope it is. Let's find him. There he is. So this is the section that we were looking at just there. The guide is doing something interesting, so this means we need to reinforce it. Yeah, that's why it's boring, because you've got these two guides which are mirrors of each other, so they're balancing each other out. So let's pick a side. They're both flowing that way, so let's break them. And let's just do that. So that on its own will be enough to break that. Might not look good though. And let's curl this guy. In a studio, do you simulate your grooms or do you hand off to an effects department? That varies a lot from studio to studio. NPC is pretty public on this. They have a effects team called Tech Anim. They are incredibly talented simulation artists. And yeah, they handle the hair simulation for us. We help them with the setup. Like I'm not going to go into details because it is NDA. But you know, obviously the groom department and the effects department are very closely knit when it comes to hair simulation. You know, we help each other out, make sure that everything's working correctly. But yeah, I mean, I personally don't do hair simulation. But yeah, there's some incredibly talented, like very technical people in that effects department or tech and department. Again, it varies from studio to studio though. There we go, that's a lot more interesting. It's a bit flat though. Don't know if you guys feel that as well, but that just looks quite dull. So let's get something in here and pull it out. Maybe these two. These two can be my kind of guinea pigs. So let's scale them out. At this point they are now longer than the other hairs in the area, but I don't care. If it means getting a shape that I like, I'm gonna do it. And let's go really extreme with that curl. Let's pull them back in on themselves. So that's gonna completely like ruin sections of the groom now. We need to reinforce that as well. Let's do you. And let's utilities, target guide, set target, select this guy, and then just break that at the tip so it's not perfect. And let's do that as well. We need to add a bit of variation to their angle. Something like that can look interesting. They will kind of make a spiral together, which might be quite cool. But that should now have a bit of a peak from below, which is subtle, but it's there. So we're going to need to really figure out how we're going to break up this. Let's just quickly go in and figure out where it's coming from. So it's not coming from these guides. Let me just save because I'm getting a little bit of a bug. And let's just set this back to fully clumping. So maybe it is coming from here. Let's show these guides and then turn off a low level of clumping. It's definitely not helping, so how about we... So I had 63% not clumping. Oh, by the way, this not clumping thing, it's just a strays noise, but I've connected it to the clump. So basically I've got my map, which you can paint by just hitting create map, and then I'm just multiplying that map here with something that generates a strays map. So that as I move this, I'm getting like a random noise, and then the white dots are multiplied by this basically, and that just allows me to say a percentage of the hairs don't clump anymore. So I can do things like this. So all the hairs clumping, and none of the hairs clumping. So it allows me to do it as a percentage, which when you combine that with the mask is quite a helpful little tool. So you still get the shapes, but they're not driving everything in your groom. The next big issue though is the fact that we're seeing straight through a lot of these clumps. Like we can see almost immediately through that. So we might need to do a similar thing with this. So first off, let me just turn this off again. Yeah, okay, so that looks like it should be working fine. And then let's try adding some volume to the roots of these. So that will fill it out, but we could do that with a noise as well. Let's check that from the front as well. We do lose some of the stuff that I quite like, is one of the problems with this technique. Let's set the value of this guy to be 0.5. So there's fundamentally there's almost no clumping for the first 30% or 28% of the hair, and then it starts clumping. So that will fill in the gaps. You can't see as far in anymore. It won't work perfectly, but it will do something, and that's sometimes all you need. So let's just do a quick test render with that. It will also make the clumps look quite fat, which isn't something I'm particularly interested in. But let's see how that works. This breakup up here is really horrible, so we need to find a nice ref for the top of the head. Let's turn on the lamp. Oh, there we go. So you'll see how, if I delete the ID channel, see how that feels more full. It's not like where we want it to be, but it feels more full. We're also getting a bit, ooh, that's not pretty. That bit down here is fixed, which is good. But we've replaced it with something that looks quite ugly. So I might actually go and reverse that change we made to this section. Maybe it'll grow on me, but I also don't really like the fatter clumps, so we might have to find a different way to break up the hair. Yeah, I'm not too keen on the fatter clumps. So let's kill that. And then kill that. And then let's make the guides here slightly less extreme. What we'll do is rather than pull them all the way out, well, we'll pull them all the way out, but rather than pull them in, we'll pull them down. And that makes them less likely to intersect. So they're still getting that arch from the back. Let's grab that guide. Cool, so we still get that kind of shape from the bottom, but we no longer get it diving into the other hairs. We might need to pull that up though. So it's going to go back a little bit to what it was, but that's fine. If we don't like a shape, then let's just get rid of it. There's no point holding on to like a whole shape just because you like one piece of it. That'll look a lot more interesting now. I am quite happy with this section as a whole, flow-wise anyway. Modifier-wise, it's still pretty horrific. So we got two noises at the moment. Let me turn both of these off. I really wish you could name your modifiers. That'd be a really big help. This section still needs some help, I think. We're seeing through too far. For now, let's copy that. And we don't have a mask in our comp2s yet. We will add one later, but for now, let's just add this. I'm going to remove the brackets just because I don't need them. I'm going to change the seed as well. Because it's got the same seed, basically hairs that aren't clumping to the comp2s also aren't clumping to the comp1s. So we need to change that seed. Just so we do still get, yeah, that gives us a lot more structure. They also make it feel a lot fluffier. There's also another way to add strays. That's too many though. There we go. And then we can go in, and what are these different strays doing? So this one's doing our actual strays. Cool. So what, this noise is a bit too low frequency for me. Let's increase that frequency a little bit. How many CVs? We have 18 CVs, that should be enough. Let me just double check. Increase that a little bit. Ah, we need more CVs, okay. To get the frazzy look that I want, we do need more. Which means that our stray noise is now a bit too high frequency, so we need to reduce that back down. Also, rather than use this % strafing here, I'm going to replace that with our favorite. And then massively reduce that. And then again, change the seed. You want to make sure that you don't have the same seed for everything, because otherwise there'd be a bunch of hairs getting the exact same effect. What is the percentage stray for this guy? Is it 2%? Alright, okay, so it seems to be set to 2. That's now back to what it was, but now we have a slider for it. And we can also just change the seed at any moment by going like that. Now we'll have different strays. I actually quite like some of the shapes we're getting with this seed. The thing is with seeds is they're not actually making the hair different. They're just basically running all the maths again, but with a different starting point. So ultimately the look is the same, but you're getting, yeah, the exact shapes aren't identical. This is looking quite interesting. Maybe we need less hairs clumping. Let's set this to 70, so 6% more hairs aren't clumping anymore. There we go. That helps. We're almost at the point of working on this front section, which is going to give me many nightmares. I'm also going to probably scrap most of these modifiers while I'm working on the clumps. As in scrap, as in turn off. So I'll set percentage to 100 on all of them, and I'll turn off the noises. Let's add a tiny bit more cut. What's that set? Oh, the cut is actually set quite high. So we just need more interesting guides, basically. We're letting too much stuff average out, so we need a guide here. And the reason I say we need a guide here isn't because we've not got enough guides in this area, it's because we don't have enough variation in this area. Guides go where you want variation to go. Don't just add guides for the sake of it. If you want, add a guide if you need more variation, or if you more variation to flow, that is. Don't add guides for more noise variation, that would be pointless. But add more guides where you want flow variation or where you want to reinforce a shape. If you're not doing either of those two things, then you don't need to add more guides. So let's just do this. I'm currently going to try to like part the hairs in this area a little bit. Doing that will be enough to create some shape change. I also need to scale them up because they will lose a little bit of length when you interpolate them. Cool. So that might be enough to get some interesting flows in that area. Still boring. More guides, I guess. I think we need one there. So let's add one right there. Yeah, he's going straight, so let's pull him over this way. So again, we are getting into that territory now where this is entirely a personal preference of workflow. This is the point at which some professionals will look at this and be like, nah, don't do that. Just do noises or clump noise instead, and they're not wrong. But it's not the way I like to work. I prefer to have full control over the shapes. I don't like using the reason I don't like using noises. So let me just pin down a reason so that you can make your personal choices. Noises are way quicker, and you have more control over the look. And what I mean by that is, if you want to change to having more matted looking scraggly clumps, then you can do that in an instant. You just change the frequency, add a bit of curl, and you're done. If you do this guide method and you want to change the look, it's an absolute pain to do so. It is not quick. So in a production environment, if you've not got something exact to match, you wouldn't normally do something like this. You'd normally play about with it a little bit differently. The reason I like to use guides though is because when you use noise is a bit indiscriminate. It doesn't care what other shapes are doing as much. You can use correlation and all that shit, but like ultimately it's procedural. It doesn't know exactly what you want. So if you add noise, you'll get some hairs that are kind of clipping in and out of each other, but one of the things that I find quite important is layering, and you can't really do layering with noise. I can add all these noises, but I can move guides to adjust for each other. So I've got these diving in, but then I've got the guides below it kind of moving out of the way. So it's not just an intersecting mess. Whereas with noise, you wouldn't really have that control. And that guide here that we had where it dived back in, we could correct that. If we did that with noise, we wouldn't be able to correct that really. We just have to change the seed and hope for the best. Whereas now we've got a nice flowy shape. But again, it takes a lot of work. It's one of the slower methods. In the end, it gives you more control for the final result, because if you get like pixel fucked by a supervisor who's like really keen on doing some crazy shit, then doing it with noises can be a pain, because sometimes they'll say, oh, I really like that shape, and you'll be like, great, but that shape was accidental. And that's what I try to avoid as much as I can. Again, there are pros and cons. As I said, my method is way slower. It really relies on solid guide work, really relies on it. And sometimes you don't have time for solid guide work. Sometimes you do just need to throw some modifiers on there and get what you can. So do keep that in mind. And I'm sure, although not every groom professional will agree with the method, I think most groom professionals would agree with what I just said in terms of, obviously you want to build things as cleanly as you can, but sometimes you don't have the time to. You just have to throw shit together. I've got my fair share of hacky grooms that made their way into films. But whenever I need a really exact match on something, for a high-end digitable, it's all guide work for me. I'll spend all my time on guides. I'm going to part this area a little bit more as well. So let's pull you this way. There we go. I just want these to not line up so perfectly, so they can crash a little bit. If there are any groom professionals watching, I'd really love to hear your opinion on kind of when you like to use guide work versus when you like to use noises, because that's something that, like, again, it's a nuanced conversation. It'd be really cool to hear what people think, the different opinions out there. Because again, like there'll be groom artists way better than me that completely disagree with everything I say. There'll be groom artists way better than me that might agree with everything I said. There we go. This area is gonna need a bit of work. We are getting to that point though of like these aren't final guides. We will be going in and tweaking these, and we will be, you know, at the end doing probably a final layer of like really intense guide work. But for now, I'm just trying to fix this area. It's still averaging itself out incredibly boring, which is quite frustrating. Let me check. That's not going to work actually. Well, we need to do a test render actually now. I've got all the breakup in there. So let's just do here IPR. And we'll see how different the look is. It won't be perfect. I need to add like strays to the small clumps to get that, but I also need to add a third layer of clumping because I think my smallest clumps aren't small enough. They're not doing enough work. Like if I temporarily bring this reference up, so obviously we got this big clump. That's one layer of clumping. You could argue that's guide work in some ways, but it's got very clean parting, so I'm going to call it a clump. And, you know, you've got a similar size here, so let's call these a clump. Within that, you've got one clump here, one clump here, one clump here, and then it's kind of noise blending them. And then within that, you've got a clump here, clump here, clump here, clump here. So this reference has 3 layers of clumping. One of them is massive, one of them is, in fact, this is a decent area for it. So you see how we got one super wide clump, you got 3, maybe 4 larger clumps, and then, you know, if we zoom in, you get like these 2 hairs here that are pretty close together. You got, you know, little partings within this. So there's roughly 3 layers of clumping in this reference. In this reference is the keyword. Like normally you have 2 or 3 layers. If you've got like 5 layers of clumping, then either you're doing some really fancy strays or you've got too many. If you've got 1 layer of clumping, then either you're doing an animated film that has a simplistic art style hair-wise, or you've not got enough breakup. Let's see how different that is. Yeah, so that's what the adding strays does, which I think works quite well. We've still got our structure in there, which is working quite nice. That top section has got a lot more boring from it though, so we're really going to have to do so much guide work in this area. It's going to be really painful. This section's quite boring. This section's not had any work done to it. But we're getting something out of it now. It's definitely better with the breakup in there. We need to do the same thing to this groom. These like main clumps are way too stick-like. I'm gonna turn off that ID layer. Small Robot Studios recently did a video on random and AOVs. I really need to check that out. Which, by the way, if anyone's learning Renderman, check out Small Robot. They've got a really cool YouTube channel. They're really, really good on... Yeah, in their video on the Martian hair shader, I'm not entirely sure how much I agree with it, but at the same time, they know a lot more than I do. Let's go to AOVs. And what are you? That's the alpha. I don't want that. Oh, I do want that, sorry. Where's the ID coming from then? Beauty. Okay. So where's A? And you'd think these are in order, but apparently not. A, that's alpha channel. U, V, W, Z. Outside OR. The names of the AOVs in this are an absolute nightmare. Custom. So where's the ID channel coming from? Does it come from the object? Is there like a random object somewhere in my scene that has a random ID assigned to it? You know what I think is the problem? I think this section of guides should curl the other way. I think it should pass over this. And that gives a general, like, the problem we got is it's straightening out. And the reason it's straightening out is because on this side, the guides are going this way. On this side, the guides are going that way. So when we interpolate those, we're getting the guides going straight because they cancel each other out. So I think if we grab these ones and just do that, those guides are completely broken, but let's just see if that works. So we don't need to fix intersections on guides. Yeah, that immediately helps. Alright, cool, so that's what we need to do. Now we're getting this crossover, we're getting some actual interest in there. But it's just because they're basically mirrors of each other. That's not what I want to do. That's what I want to do. So let's fix this guide, because he's the one that's mostly broken. Do something like that. Let's pull him way over as well. It's okay to have these hairs cross as long as they don't intersect. So let's do that. Then let's pick this guide. What's he doing? Let's pull him out. Yeah, he was crossing a bit too much. Cool. Then this guide. Don't like his shape at all. Let's have him cross over a little bit. And then we're going to need this guide. Get a bit of that S-bend in there that I always go on about. And then this guide is the last one. Let's have him follow that shape a bit more closely. He's a bit too close to this one. But then he kind of has to be because of this guide here. It's almost like we need another guide in here, but I really don't want to do that. I'm going to try to avoid that if I can. Because now it's getting too dense. Like, really having four guides for one, like, clump, although I wouldn't really call it a clump, is really intense. So, these two, they need to do something. Let's have them do that. So, it's going to look horrible. I'm going to save an alt version as well. It's going to look horrible for now, but let's see if the general flow changes. That entire section is getting more interesting now. We need to flick them out, I think, because now it's looking quite flat. Which is that's an issue a lot of this groom is getting, to be honest. We need to add more height variation to our guides. I think I've gone too overboard with the layering. Like I've kept it too clean. If there is such thing, really. But let's do that, which completely breaks that side silhouette, but that might be what we need. And then we're going to need to do the same. Let's grab these guys and pull them up. We just spent all that time making these guides, but we need to do that. Let's see how well that works. Ooh, that's quite cool. This bit's too flat now. So let's grab you and arch them up. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Cool, got a bit of curve to them now. Not keen on that. Let's try that. That helps. Cool. So let's just quickly fix the 0.8 taper. So now all the guides are identical. I need to Google how to randomize guide color. Because now you can change the guide colors in... Is it preview output? Yeah, you can change... Ooh! Expression. Let me just check. 1:1:25. Alright, I'm going to try to remember that. I'm going to keep this, but I'm going to not call it. So let's do $B equals, but then let's do a rand. In fact, can I just put, let's see if this works. Can I just put rand? And then call $B. Or is that just going to give random values? Yeah, it just gives random values. Which... if I multiply those... Apply. Not keen. Let's do... So apparently I can't just use a random value in every single one. That's a shame. Alright, well let's just do that multiply thing because I think that was better. Let's do dollar max. Let's just do mult strength. And then mult min. Cool. Equals, let's go with 0.5 for now, I guess. And that goes from 0.0 to 1.0. And that rand can be from mult min to 1. Apply. Apply. Why are you not happy? Oh, shut up. Okay, let's just do $A multiplied by $B. Okay, then hide this. So now, in theory, stop updating. In theory, we have a variation slider. There we go. So now I can add loads of variations to the guide colors, and that will just help me kind of keep track of which one's which. I wish I could use that as like a hue shader, a hue slider even, but that'll do for now. Let me just do something now. Guide color, and do guide color multiplied by B. There we go. Using the American spelling of color, which I hate, but I have to. Because otherwise I'd have guide color in American and guide color in actual English. I think that works quite well. Right, so let's go get those updated. So, what section we're going to work on now? I think this section. Although that is the side that we don't see the most, so I think this section maybe. Let's have some water. Ah, that's better. So, what's bugging me the most? Let's figure this out. I mean, strictly speaking, the ears are bugging me more than the head, but I don't want to work on those right now. In fact, let's add that third layer of clumping, because I think that's quite important. I can always turn it off later. Clumping. So something I have to check is what density are these set to? 18. It's pretty massive, actually. So 18. Let's go with 52. 3 times more. Wait, did I suggest the wrong one? No, I didn't. Cool. So let's just see how that looks on its own, not doing anything to it. That helps. We're getting these finer breakups now, but we need to add that extra layer. And for this one, I'm going to keep the seed the same. Except... just so all the same hairs are not clumping to 2 and 3. So now, clump 2, or clump 3, sorry, is just tightening up some sections. And this can be the one that we start adding like stray noises in. So let's do a super quick pass of that. 1. That's actually a lot more subtle than I expected. Is that seriously all we're getting out of it? Apparently so. Oh, there we go. Okay. Let's set that to 0.5. Hey, Aaron. Right, so We need a noise magnitude. Dollar noise magnitude equals 4 is the current value. In fact, actually, I've already got this made somewhere. Let's cancel that. Load expression. I've got a fancy noise expression. I'll say fancy. It's pretty simple in the grand scheme of things. There we go. So all I need to do is set the maximum for these. So the strays can be stronger. Bit too strong. Let's add a rand to this guy as well. Let's go from 0.5 to 1.5. That maximum magnitude is too high. Let's go 3.5 on that one. Michael, why don't you stream on Twitch? I just don't have a Twitch account. Figured may as well just be on YouTube. I don't want to have too many media, to be fair. I like keeping everything in one place. Cool. That's still too strong. So let's reduce this one to 1.5. Let's test this with ambient occlusion turned on. That did surprisingly little, actually. Oh, that's shadows, that's why. That's ambient occlusion. Let me just go into the viewport, anti-aliasing, turn you up, and then ambient occlusion quality is fine. It's starting to get some interesting textures to it. It's a bit too clean to be like that line that we were looking at earlier. Like there needs to be, I think the hairs need to be thicker with less taper. And the clumps need to be less strong. I also don't know what these clumps here are doing, but I think I can learn to live with those. I can fix them at a later point. Maybe these fine clumps are too big. Let's try changing set of maps. So let's go 18 higher than this. So let's go to 70. And then let's change the seed. There we go. Oh, that's a bit better to me. That's a bit more interesting. Right, we'll do a test render of this and then I'll finally move on to actually doing the sides. I've been putting it off for long enough. So let me turn off ambient occlusion. Ambient occlusion is really great to help you see some shapes. And then anti-aliasing is a must. You can't groom with this. One second. Right, start an IPR. Get that going. Any tips and resources to learn proper grooming? So let me just get. So I made a website. You can get some tutorials on there. That's just MikeCauchiArt.com, and on there there's some tutorials like general tips on guide grooming, general tips on XGen, like the whole pipeline, um, going from like why naming conventions are important, and then goes through every stage. The guide work in this is really old. I did this. This is actually a student project I did, so this is over 3 years old now. This is bad, but I addressed that in the guide grooming. Um, but this goes through everything, and it's free. The quality of it isn't that good, but the actual knowledge in there, like the information, is pretty much correct. I've been through it a few times. And it's also got some advice from some pretty decent artists, people who are a lot better than I am, as well as a bunch of resources at the bottom. So at the bottom of this is the Light Collab or Shark Tacos. These are one of the best technical directories you can get on Action. You got obviously Autodesk documentation. Tarkan Sarim, he did a pretty decent set of tutorials. Jesus Fernandez, he's got some really good stuff. Obviously, all this stuff is paid. Tom Newbury's Gumroad, this is one of the ones where I learned quite a lot from when I was starting off Groom. Beyond, he's more of a Yeti groomer, but again, he's pretty good. He's a rigger by job, I think, but he's someone who's good to look at. And then you got the Weta Digital Research paper, but that's more of a look dev thing. But yeah, so this could be worth checking out for you. Just MikeCauchiArt.com. If you search XGen grooming, it should be one of the first results on Google. Not the first result, but one of them. But yeah, I tried to cover as much information, like the general workflow I like to do and all that sort of stuff. Like I start off with guide work, then I do clumping, then I add noise, and it's done. But again, like these guides are awful, so don't look at these guides as a good example. Yeah, I even put a little note there, but I went over, where is it? Do's and don'ts of guide grooming. This goes into a bit more detail as to like how to make decent guides. I think I made this when I was about 1.5 years into MPC as a groom artist. There is another tutorial I did on grooming that's a bit older. Well, there's 2 others I did actually. Is clumping Yeti, back when there was basically no Yeti tutorials. And there's also Beginner's Guide to Grooming. This one was in NHair and Paint Effects. So this is very old now. This is October 2016, so almost 4 years old. But this one goes over kind of the fundamentals of hair, so general information that can work across any system. I actually made this tutorial for 3D Artist magazine as well. It's kind of cool. It's a lot of fun to do. But yeah, so this goes through more like older, like legacy techniques, because this is before XGen was really, XGen was available at this point, but it wasn't that well known, like how to make it stable. So yeah, this goes through NHair. And again, this one has some tutorials at the bottom that I recommended, and comments that I never check. So there's probably some stuff on here. This is a 2-year-old comment that I'd never seen. Make a video tutorial about this. Yeah, it's a bit old now. But yeah, so I hope those are helpful to you. While we were waiting, this is rendered a bit more. Let's delete the ID channel. Yeah, so adding those flows up here really helped a bit, and then adding the sub-clumping. You see how we're getting these tighter sections? That helps quite a lot as well. Let's delete that. But yeah, we need to break up this section and this section. I think this one can survive. We can let one area be more boring, because if it's all chaos, then it will feel like we don't really have anything structure-wise. You should add a link to your site in the description. Yeah, I should. I definitely should. There's quite a lot of people. My website gets quite a lot of visitors. I think it averages like 2,500 a month, like unique visitors at the moment. And there's no links to my YouTube on that. So, and plus my YouTube channel, the name is nothing even related to my website. So a lot of people don't know this channel exists. Yeah, alright, so we're starting to get some interesting photos. I really do quite like this area, how it came out. I don't like this kind of, it's like a big sweep where the flows kind of follow it. I'm not too keen on that, but that's something maybe it's kind of interesting, but it's don't know. It's not exactly what I'd be looking for personally, but we can come back to that. For now, oh, this render's already killed. Cool. Oh, it's this one that's still going. But yeah, so we need to break up this area. I'm going to kill that render now. So list, to-do list. Break up this area. Break up the silhouette in this because this is so clean. Like that's way too, I think clean in a bad way. It's just boring. Like you got a few clumps and that's kind of it. The flow is basically a perfect cylinder. Like if I had drawn a cylinder over this would almost be perfectly following it. So let's break that up a bit. And then we need to do the ears because this is really, really not scaring me, but I just don't like it. Oh, actually, before I do all that, I forgot I wanted to quickly address something on the whiskers. So let's just go into the whisker groom. Show this, and then I just want to very, very briefly do this. Just because I know it takes basically no time to do that, so. I just don't like how it was looking from the front when we rendered it. There we go, that'll be a bit better. I'm also going to reduce the width very slightly. Maybe that's even enough. Cool, so that's that. The neck is going to take a lot of work as well. Basically, I think for the neck, I'm going to end up copying like a lot of the setup for this because this is working quite successfully. I think that will work on the neck as well. We will need some additional breakup on the neck just because I kind of want it to be. I mean, ultimately, he's a creature, and I feel like this area would be like he'd be ruffling it up the most, like when you scratch your neck, or if he's eating, maybe this will get some food in it, and that sort of stuff. So I want this to be a lot more matted. Obviously, both should be quite matted. I do need to go in and make this feel less soft. Density and some really strong twisted clumps will help quite a lot with that. So that's something I'll do probably in that second. Probably what I'll do is in this second layer of clumping. I'll probably add some curl to these. Hello, welcome back. But yeah, so I'll probably add some curl and noise.
What was that word?
Curl.
Carl.
Can you say it?
Carl.
Curl.
Carl.
But yeah, so I'll add some matted clumps, a little bit of curl, and noise. Drive them with the same seed so that they affect the same clumps, and that will allow us to get some matted clumps in there. Because the way that clumping is handled in Action is something that I don't really like that much. In that you don't have that much control over the clumps. Like yeah, you have noise, you have all this stuff, but you can't add separate noises. Like you can't add a strays noise and a regular noise without doing expressions. It would be nice if you could add like noise effect 1, noise effect 2, and drive those both, but you can't. So we've done a bit of work on the feeling of the hair, Becca. You okay? Sneeze. Do it. You can do it. Do it. Sneeze.
Why don't you shut up? Tell
okay.
me what to do.
Don't tell me to sneeze, English boy.
You hate me.
You cisgendered white fuck.
No, that's me.
Well, that is me. That's what I was saying. But yeah, alright, so we need to break up this. This is the thing that we need to do now.
Somebody get her a haircut?
Who? Oh, this. Yeah, I need to start breaking up the front. Because we've done all this work at the back now to kind of add like different flows and stuff.
Are the ears too clumpy?
Yeah, I've not started working on the ears yet.
That's fine.
I'm going to be working quite a lot on those. But yeah, so this section needs doing now. And this one. So let's break this up.
I like that one scraggly hair at the bottom. For anybody watching, I dyed my hair about a week, 2 weeks ago. This is what the bottom of my hair looked like. I had to chop it all out. It was not a good look.
I don't think it was as bad as this one though, right?
No, it was. See, like the top bit, like the kind of top mid section, like here on your groom, there's like this kind of like cool. Like,
oh yeah.
That was the way my hair was. Note to yourself: don't do what I did. Care about you. It's Friday. I'm in love.
Let's get a guide there. Part him down a little bit. Just have it fall into place. And then let's get a guide in here. And let's pull that up to meet this guy. Doesn't make much sense, but it might look cool. We need something here. Break that up. Let's grab this guy and this guy. Cool, we didn't slip through. That's good. And then let's add a guide right there. What if I put a guide there? Put a guide there. What if I put a guide there? How about there? Okay, so that's the issue. Let's pick a side to win this battle. Let's go with up. There we go. Starting to get some separation there. At long last. That took way more guides than I expected it to. I could have done that with clumping as well. But again, as I was saying earlier, I don't like to do clumping in place of guide work. So that's something that's not helping is the fact there's a smooth shape change between them. So let's do that as well. So this guide's a bit of a mess now, but it might break up the shape enough. Yeah, it's doing better. Infinitely more interesting. Alright, so this area is really screwed. I need to figure out what to do in that bit. Before I do that though, I'm going to refill my water and go to the toilet. I'll be back in a minute, guys.
Good one.
Good one.
Many things.
Chair fell over.
Dignity left the building.
What's that?
Dignity left the building.
I've never had dignity. What are you on about?
If anybody wants to ask me any questions.
Not interesting, Becca.
Shut up, Michael. Care about you, it's Friday.
I lied, you were very interesting. Okay, that was a lie. Double bluff.
Double bluff. Double danger.
Guys, pull out the candle.
Yes, please. Friday, I'm in love.
Yeah.
You alright, Michael?
There we go. I return.
Much better.
Much better.
No, stay where you are.
Right. I'm back. So, what we're going to do here. First off, we need to get the reference. So, nope, that's not what I wanted to do. So from the front, we need to get all this large, quite nice breakup. And currently we have Karen.
Karen.
Karen. So we really need to do some work. I also need to get the stray clumps in from the front, these guys here. Part of me is tempted to do that as a separate groom, like I did on the Dragon Boy thing that I did. We'll see how that works out, because crowns are quite difficult to get right. Although this is working a lot better now that we've added all the guides in there, we're not getting the weird clumps in the middle. But yeah, we need something similar at the front. Anyway, so sides, we need to really force some shapes, because we're getting quite a lot of clumps we don't have control over, which is not good. And we're also getting just a lack of features in general. Granted, if I move this back over, that kind of area has almost no guide work relative to the rest of them, considering how many shapes we need. Like we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 defined shapes in the front, and then kind of a blurry mess here, which I'll have to figure out with probably noises, to be honest. I might really play about with that. But yeah. So how are we going to go about this? 1 second. Oh, the groom supervisor at Micros shared my stream. That's really cool. Louis, if you're still watching, thank you for the share. I hope I pronounced your name right, by the way. His name is spelled, let me find it again. L-U-I-S. I think that's Louis, right?
Or is it Louis? Like,
I think he is French.
I know how to speak French.
Yeah. Right, so let's start defining some shapes. I'm going to add a guide. First shape we want to define is this guy. So I'm going to add a guide right there. And for the sake of getting something in place, let's just do that. I'll be refining all the sheeps. Sheeps? Is that my inner Welsh person coming out? I am 1/4 Welsh.
Are you?
Yes.
Are you?
My dad's family are Welsh.
Are they?
I am 1/4 Welsh. Yeah. I only find the rear right leg of a sheep attractive. The rest of it disgusts me. 1/4. Yeah, I know. But yeah, so let's. Does that help? Obviously, it's too early for anything to really help, but we start really forcing some guides in here. So let's add a guide there, and I'm not going to worry about preserving length now, because I just want to force some shapes in there. So let's do that, and then let's make it look interesting from all angles, which is easier said than done for clumps like this. It needs to point down, which is one limitation we have. It has to point down. So let's do an S that way, because I can't do much of an S this way. So something like that. Maybe sticking out too much. In fact, it's sticking out way too much. Looking at the reference, it should go to about there on the air. So that's going to be our core shape. So I'm going to pull this guide to vaguely match it. Vaguely is the key on that. I'm also going to bend it forward a little bit before pulling it back, just to get some variation in there. Something like that will do. And let's preview that. So we're going to get interesting shapes out of this. This is going to take a lot of guide work to get to do what I want. I need to check my mask as well. So I need a guide here, really. Yeah, that area is confusing things a lot. So let's pull that down. So again, like what I'm doing right now is not standard at all. If you want to be a quote-unquote good groomer for VFX, this level of guide work is not necessary. The only reason I'm doing this is because I have a vendetta against guide clumping, and this is a personal project, so I don't mind. I really do enjoy doing a lot of guide work, so I quite enjoy doing this level of stuff. But strictly speaking, you would just, unless you have to match an exact shape, you'd probably just settle with the procedural shapes that you get. You'd try to get something procedural that matches the feeling and the main shapes from your reference. It is entirely unnecessary to add this number of guides to match shapes exactly. But, as I said, this is a kind of VFX-y animated creature, and that is a fantasy creature that is concept-based, but is hopefully going to be to a VFX standard when it's done with. Probably not the look dev. I'm not a look dev artist. I will have to reach out to a lot of people to get information on that. But on the other topics, like the modeling and stuff, I do want to get it as close to VFX as I can. But yeah, so let's put this back out. So next guide I'm going to need is you. And I'm placing guides super close together here. That's just to give XGen as little room as possible to interpolate, because I don't want these interpolated. In the reference, there's a very clear divide between this shape and this shape. So I want very little interpolation. Again, guide clumping would be better, or a region map would be better in many ways. But I quite like those little bits of interpolation XGen does. Again, like, humans are really bad at making things look natural, so I try to remove as much specific shapes from my control as I can. So obviously I'm doing a lot right now to force some shapes, but I'm forcing them within the interpolation, which still keeps some level of natural feeling to stuff. That is not what I want to do. Just like that. Let's just pull that forward a little bit. So now this area should be a little bit more defined. It might not be perfectly defined, but it might be a little bit closer. We may need to add the primary clumps back in. In fact, actually, I think I accidentally painted those out earlier, so let me hide this. Save this guy. And let's go into modifiers, clump 1, and paint our map. Ooh, it is painted in. Okay. I don't think clump 1s were painted in this area. What about our clump 2s? I don't have a map in the clump 2s. Okay. So is that entirely coming from our strays, which don't clump to anything? Because that might be a problem if they are. Granted, I can map the strays, but I don't want to. Let's just push forward. Ignore that. We can always come to that later, because that is a smaller detail in the grand scale of things. So let's add. I'm going to add another guide there. I think that's where these are going to end. And let's just pull that up. Actually, we had to do very little to that. Same with back here. So I want this section basically. I'm basically just sectioning the hair right now. I think these shapes are a bit too flowy though, a bit too boring. That's something we can figure out.
No.
What's that?
No.
We can't figure it out?
No.
No. Okay. We are starting to get some separation. I think if we look at this from a distance, we can feel the larger shapes starting to show up now, which is progress. Really need to go over these eyelashes again. They're so bad. Right, so I think something that's bugging me more is this right now. I think I might just need to do something like this. Interpolation's bringing them back out. No, that is not what I need to do. Undo that. Well, I can't undo it because my undo's broken. So my undo's broken. For whatever reason, no matter what I do, I've set the preferences to have like, I think 10 undos. Right. I've made sure that's correct, but I just don't have any undos. It says there's nothing more to undo when I undo once. So I can't undo it all. But that's fine, because I can just live with my mistakes and try to fix things manually. That's why I'm saving very often. Because if something breaks in a way that I can't fix, then that'll be just a nightmare for everyone involved. And by everyone involved, I mean me, because I'm the only person doing this right now, but still. Right. Let's... Oh, I've got that same problem. Oh, with the undos. Me and Francisco seem to be in sync with all the Maya problems we're getting. It's great. I think we're both loving it. Right, okay. So this is the guide we need to start matching for this one now. So let's grab you. Yeah, I can't undo guide moving. There's quite a lot of stuff I can't undo though, is the problem. Like, I can't undo material changes. I can't really undo anything.
I had that issue earlier today at work.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You couldn't undo material changes?
Yeah, it was weird.
So frustrating.
But I know fixed the name, but I think I just literally bodged it.
Bodging is the secret to being a professional. That's my secret, Captain. I'm always bodging. Got him. Let's put a guide. Let's go with right there. And pull him to match these guys. So I may be forced to do guide clumping in this area. Just because the amount of guides I'm going to need otherwise is kind of obscene. These guides are being placed actually pretty close to where I'd actually want them to go. But that's an issue, is because the guides are doing almost exactly what I want when I place them, but the hair is still interpolating a lot. And I don't want to place hundreds of guides. Like, this amount of guide work is already getting pretty obsessive. Let's pull these in more. There needs to be a bigger difference between them. You pull you out. Also, welcome back to this stream, Francisco. Right. Where's that mask going? Does it just go straight back from these? It does. Straight line. That's helpful. So that's the guide right there. What does he need to do? He needs to get pulled down, physically separated from the rest. Let's do something like that. I'm going to here. I need to remember 54. That's still interpolating quite a lot. So I might have to do guide clumping for this region. Oh, that hurts me so. Or I can get sneaky. Set of maps. Let's add clumps directly onto the guides. See if this works. This isn't guide clumping. This is just adding clumps below the guides, but we've also got procedural clumps all around them. That might be what we need to do. This is gross because it won't update whenever I regenerate my guides. They're gonna move, but whenever I regenerate my clumps, they're gonna move. Let's add you. Save. That helps a little bit. It's sneaky, but it helps. Okay, so now we need to regenerate these guys, which means a seed change. Turn that off. Generate you. And then, as a result, generate you. Did it help? I don't think it did in the end. Okay, well, we don't have that. That's fine. Let's just regenerate this. Let me try guide clumping on this. Let's see what it does. Nah, I'd rather the fully procedural way. Well, we are getting separation. So maybe I just need to paint this percentage value. Alright, that's 54, I need to set that to. Cool. And let's grab you. Set up maps. Generate. Based on you. Oh. We're missing some stuff from here. That might be why. We're missing this percentage. Is there a way to update that? See how with this one we got the percentage from the clump 2s. So that might be why it's breaking, because we're getting like stray clumps coming through the whole thing. I reckon look into it at a different point. Either way, we're starting to get the separation we want, which is good. So now we just need to start forcing some other shapes. So let's force this guy in. I'm just going to target. I'm going to do the cheap way right now. Target that. And I'm going to not do that. I'm going to select just this guide. Move that to guides. And before I break anything up, I'm just going to add another guide here. Move that to guide. So that's going to look really bad from the front. Well, it looks really bad from every angle, but let's just see if it gets the shape from that front angle. It does. Cool. So now we can start to play with those. I think we need to add another one up here though. And then what we can do is select those as a bunch. Go into guides. I'm going to turn off lock length just so I have a bit more control over them. I'm just going to do that. And then let's do that. And then missing that S bend that I always go on about. There we go, that's more interesting. There we go. Starting to get some nice little flicks. I actually kind of like the fact that the rest of the hair around it blends into it. That's something you wouldn't get with guy clumping in the same way. It kind of pulls. Obviously, we've got the defined shape because we've got a clump of guides, but then because it's still interpolating, we're getting a blend into it. It's quite like that. It's quite nice. We're getting a bit of a flat spot here, though. We need to fix that. What would be the best way? We can increase the length of this guy to get some more coverage. So let's increase the length of both of these. And then just move that back. Turn on lock length again. Cool. That will get us a little bit more coverage. There we go. The flat spot's not as bad now. So we need some more stuff going on, mainly down here. So let's pick another batch of guides to go crazy on. Let's add a guide right there. Let's target this one. Target guide, so target, and then grab you. Didn't grab any others. We selected. So he's gained a ton of length. So I might scale him back a little bit and manually move that into place. He's still longer than he should be right now, but if it allows me to get the shape, then that's fine. Because I'm doing it within, like, when I always say it's good to have consistent length, like, obviously there are limits to that. Like, you want to make sure you're getting the shapes. That's the primary thing. What I mean is with the consistent length is you don't want to see guides, you know, down here that are like, you know, this length, but then you got a guide over here that's longer and a guide below it that's longer. You wouldn't want a patch of way shorter guides. There is a bit of freedom within it, but you want to keep some level of consistency. It doesn't have to be perfect, it's just something. And that will help your guides feel more natural. It also makes it easier for Xgen to interpolate. You're less likely to get artifacting if you consider all this stuff. We have way more guides in this area. Now we need to do all the same stuff for the other side because they need it to be asymmetrical. That did a shockingly good job actually. So maybe we need to part above that for it to work. So let's do a guide right there. And this one can be pulled up. And that will create a bit of separation. I'm also going to change the amount of variation. Oh, did I get a crash? Okay, how much are we about to lose?
All of it.
Pardon?
Ooh. Shiny.
Maya's not responding. Die then.
Everyone's like, die. Save a temp folder.
It's a complete crash, so it won't save a temp.
Oh.
It's locked up the UI completely. It's not a computer crash, which is nice.
I think that's nice.
Yeah. It won't let me end the task either. Weird. It wouldn't even respond to end task. That's a new one.
I'm gonna brush my hair. Run that around there while I-
Okay, let me just.
This is probably like the most not complicated, but like workaround network because I don't want open substance.
Oh really?
So like I can use my UVs, to drive like where the mask is, so like 50 white, 50 black.
Yeah.
Not that, but it means I've been using that for like masking everything.
Aren't you
So it's
really
like,
lost?
any colour variations, I have to like mask it off.
I saved right before it crashed.
Oh.
I've only lost 3 minutes from now, but that's like after 2 minutes of it
Yeah.
being crashed.
That's good.
Yay, we have almost everything still. We lost 2 guides in total. That's good.
I can dry my hair in the kitchen, okay?
Yeah, go for it.
Just in case it gets not like really bored here, listeners.
Brace yourself, guys, for a hairdryer in the background. I recommend turning down your audio a little bit. That also has the added benefit of not being able to hear me as well, which is a good thing sometimes.
Music is just like.
David Mitchell. I think we could get a nice little curl in here. Sad. Is it over?
Well done, you survived the task.
Yay. I'm gonna force a random curl in here and see if it works visually. Anxiously cries.
Yeah. Got knee pads looking. Got ourselves wee knee pads.
They working what?
Just wee knee pads.
Wee knee pads.
Wee knee pads.
Wee knee pads.
They're cute. Probably need to add like dirt and shit at some point, but.
They're getting averaged out to oblivion. This guide is so much shorter than the rest.
Just that one guy.
Yeah, it's literally, look at him. He's like chilling in between all these. He doesn't even meet the middle point. To be fair, I'm completely ruining this section right now. In terms of like that initial block out, it's going to be nothing like that now. Let's show the ear groom. Oh, actually, something I just remembered. I need to check if the body groom is working. There we go. I thought I broke the body groom for a second there.
Oops.
Yeah, I know, right? We've gained too much volume in this region.
Pound.
Hmm?
Pound.
Topology.
Clear over the buttons.
Let's render this angle. I'm gonna hide the body again. Just render here, see how that looks. Let me just change to aces as well. Not aces in rendering, but viewport. I find the aces viewport is a bit nicer to look at. More contrast. Oh, I just realised I left my glass of water up there. Mary drinks me a Guinness and I'll drink them as well. What's it? But what if Guinness is the right drink right now? What's it?
My render's just not processing.
I can have a look because I'm waiting on the render to start.
Oh, buttons are hidden.
The buttons are hidden. That's it.
Not
What?
sure.
Update scene, render, update full scene. Or update. There you go.
I saved it.
That will kind of recache everything, but it should.
There we go.
I think we're starting to get some interesting stuff. The silhouette's getting interesting on this. Becca, what do you think?
Yeah, it's cool. I'm trying to find like a button just to get the material. We can't do that.
What do you think?
This button here.
What render engine is this? This is RenderMan.
This
RenderMan 23 specifically.
none of your business.
I'm rendering with a Ryzen 3950X. I've turned off a few of the cores, so let me get the system monitor. So I'm currently rendering on most of the cores, but I've got 3 of them turned off. So 6 threads spare for the computer and OBS. The rest of them are running pretty much flat out. IPRs don't actually max out the cores for some reason, especially this first one. Why is the first one basically half-arsing it? But yeah, so it will be quite quick with this. Granted, this isn't the fastest thing you can get, but it's one of the faster ones you can get at the moment. So it makes RenderMan look a lot faster than it is. RenderMan is a very slow engine. I said Arnold is pretty slow as well sometimes.
Hey,
What?
leave her alone.
Leave her alone. But Arnold is slow. Like, I mean, most CPU renders are. Once you've gone Redshift, it's hard to go back. But for me, I don't like Redshift that much, so it's easy to go back.
Why?
I never find I can get good looking refractions and glass in
You haven't
Redshift.
used since they updated it, you know that, right?
Have they updated the glass now?
They did ages ago.
When?
Like about half a year ago.
I've used it since then. Or maybe it was in beta back then. Hey, I've missed a day stream. One hell of a stream to miss. This is the one where we've probably made the most progress in terms of the look.
But don't worry.
Any reason you use RenderMan and not Arnold? RenderMan just looks better, in my opinion. Arnold can look as good, but RenderMan just works.
I'm using Arnold.
Yeah, Becca's using
I'm
Arnold.
alright.
That's why mine looks so much better.
Fuck you.
I'm only joking. I just find RenderMan has a very photographic look with very little work. Arnold can look great. Becca knows Arnold quite well compared to. I mean, I'm pretty basic on Arnold, which is probably why I can't get the same results out of it.
I flippity dip a lot.
Yeah, Arnold is great, but I just prefer RenderMan. Although I do hate the hair shader in RenderMan. It can make some beautiful effects, but it's unreasonably hard to get white fur, which obviously I'm still not getting right now. This is a grey fur, but still. It's unreasonably hard to get white fur.
There's bound to be some.
There'll be a trick.
There will be.
There'll be a trick somewhere.
It's a very physics-based system.
Lol, sick burn.
What?
When I was saying how when you said, "Oh, I use Arnold," I was like, "Yeah, it's why mine looks so much
I
better."
am but a baby.
Yeah, you're a little babby. You've been doing this for literally half the time I've been doing it. You're catching up though. You'll overtake me in no time. I think about a year from now you would have overtaken me in most skills other than modelling and groom. Everything else you'll fly past. If you overtook me in groom, I would be very sad. If you overtook me in modelling, I'd be quite sad as well because I've spent years doing modelling. Right, so let's not keep rendering this. So I'm going to give myself some notes and start working from it. I've still got a bit of work to do at the front section here, and then I need to do it on the other side. But visually, right now, I do quite like the splits that we're getting. I think we were fairly successful in getting those from the paints that I did. The ears are definitely pulling this back the most. There's kind of two stages to it. You can feel like a seam where the clumps kick in, and above that, it's just there's nothing going on. It's really, really dull. So that needs some really substantial work done to it. Although the actual feeling of the hair itself is pretty nice. I think the width and the strays are pretty good. The clumping and flow have no breaks in them. They need like this sort of stuff where you get. It doesn't need the big clumps to break it. It just needs the flow breaks like what we got here. They're quite hard to get on short hair. Becca is also a groom artist. No, she's not. She's started learning it though. And again, it'll be one of those many things where she will catch up to me and overtake me, and it'll be humiliating. She's currently a look dev artist at Animation Studio. Well, I guess, do you want to introduce yourself? There's some new people in this.
For the 50th time.
Yeah, well, it's new people in this stream.
I'm Becca. What age am I? 24.
What age am I?
No, I'm a look dev artist.
Yeah. She started learning CG, what, 2015, 2016?
Something like that, yeah.
Okay, cool.
I'm actually getting in bed.
You're going to get in bed already?
Really tired. I slept really oddly last night. But like, you know me, I will sleep through.
Okay, well let me know if you want me to end the stream, yeah? I don't want to keep you awake.
Oh, you're so sweet. No, it's fine. You know me, I will fall asleep. I could fall asleep right now.
We live in a studio. For those who don't know, obviously I'm not going to give my address out, but we live in a student, not a student.
64 Zoo Lane.
64 Zoo Lane. What's that from?
64 Zoo.
Is it Paddington?
No.
What is it from?
Paddington. No. It's from 64 Zoo Lane, which is an old kids TV show.
I've never heard of it.
What?
But anyway, so yeah, we live in a little studio apartment, so the bed is literally like just behind where I'm working.
Snoring at any point.
Yeah, if you hear snoring, and Becca sleeps like what do you sleep like? Yeah.
Like, it's amazing. I can fall asleep. Like, there's no tomorrow.
It's really annoying. Like, we'll just be like, we'll both get in bed, and then within like a minute, you're already asleep, and I'm like, I've got about an hour of lying here until I can be ready to sleep.
Like,
and that whole time you're snoring on me. It's just like, Becca.
I like so.
I'm so jealous though.
Mike needs to like listen to a meditation app or something.
Yeah, I need like. I used to actually genuinely not be able to sleep without ASMR. There was a point I'm glad that I don't need it anymore because that would have been really bad long term. But I literally couldn't sleep without ASMR on.
What type of ASMR? Because like chewing. Is
not the chewing shit. No.
Like the
No. Pardon?
No. Moonpie. I didn't know that is what it's called.
There's two that I quite like. I quite like tapping.
Oh no, that's so annoying. I always shut out my brother for. If you start tapping one day, I'd actually throw you out that window. No, my brother used to like when he was bored and he used to always go and like throw something at him. Like, shut up.
They can be quite nice. Either that or just whispering, general whispering, but not the type that's like.
Terrifying. How can you do that?
There's one really good guy. There's one guy who's educational. I used to quite like his stuff. French whisperer, but he's literally an education channel, masquerading as ASMR.
So basically, it's the episode of Dexter's Laboratory.
Omelette du fromage. I'm distracting myself now. I need to get back into this group. But yeah, there was a point where I couldn't sleep without ASMR. I don't need it anymore. I still listen to it to chill, but like.
We are now taking donations for this weird ass child.
For just £2 a month, you can slap the shit out of Michael.
Oh god.
I'd pay that. I'd completely pay that.
I'd pay that too.
You don't have to pay it. You're sat right next to me. Although I don't have to pay it either because I'm right next to me. I can't escape me. I live in a real hell. I think it's 50% of the chat right now would be like, oh yeah, I quite like ASMR, and the other 50% be like, you're a fucking freak and unfollow.
I'm part of that.
Yeah, you really don't like ASMR, do you?
So,
The thing is
I like
that
some of it, but like.
the problem is there's so many people out there who make ASMR videos that are just way too sensual, and it makes it really fucking weird. And when you search ASMR, you almost always get just the really bad ones. Yeah, like the people who are like wearing blouses that are way too small or way too low. It's just like
Sniper X Wolf or something, dude.
SS Sniper Wolf?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
not porn star.
Oh, yeah, there is a porn star that made ASMR. It's pretty funny. Although we're not monetized, if we were, that conversation would have killed it. Oh yeah, porn and ASMR, they go great. I also shared this stream on my LinkedIn. So I'm currently talking about that on a professional stream. Not ideal.
Please give me money.
And please give Becca money to escape this house.
Click on the subscribe button, because if you don't, I slowly start to disappear.
If anyone wants to subscribe, that would be cool. Or share the stream, that would also be quite cool.
Videos for more cool content.
You won't get more cool content if you subscribe.
I don't have a YouTube channel, so.
You don't have a YouTube channel?
No.
My little brother does.
I know your little brother does.
He doesn't post to it anymore.
That's so sad.
The Fortnite dance montage got deleted. Which, to be fair, in the long run would be a good thing. Because people do get bullied for those.
Yeah, like bully. Or not bully. It's not
Bully.
Wait, I knock your one thing then?
That escalated quickly, someone said.
Get out of here with your 2020 memes. I'd love someone to do. You can actually do a study in memes. Sorry, I'm really off topic.
What, a university course on memes?
Yeah, you can do a university course in memes.
I think my favourite thing about memes is the fact that of all people, the person to coin that term was Richard Dawkins.
Oh, was it?
Yep, he coined the word meme. It's an evolutionary term for things that are socially spread around. Pub quiz of memes. Apologies for anyone who didn't like that conversation we were just having, by the way.
Sorry, well, see, it's hard to keep focused. This is inside out, but I don't care. It's hard to be focused like the full 99.
Well, it's not necessarily about being focused, it's more about some topics people don't like hearing. But at the same time, this isn't paid. And
and there are other resources out there to probably go over some of the same stuff, but you gotta pay for it.
Yeah.
So you stuck with us.
Yeah, stuck with me.
Stuck with you.
Well,
Stuck with
there's
me.
way better streamers out there who do this stuff.
Groom.
Although I've not seen many groom streamers, to be honest.
Arvid does some.
Yeah, but he's a look dev artist who knows the basics of groom. He's not a groom artist. It's like me and Arvid are opposites almost. I'm a groom artist or ex-groom artist who can do some look dev, and Arvid is an amazing look dev artist who can do some groom. But he's like way more advanced than me as an artist in general, so he gets way more viewers, as he should. Let's pull this over that way. Alright, let's add a guide to define you. Ten viewers. There we go. Arvid. Yeah, Arvid Schneider. Let me get him up. One sec. Arvid Schneider. This guy. He's really, really good. Absolutely amazing resource for anything Arnold. Like, he's incredible.
He started doing a little bit of trials.
But like anything Arnold, he's already done it.
Yeah.
That is what I'm saying. Like, he's also been doing it for a long time. Yeah, that's true. I started the streaming thing literally a couple of weeks ago. Although I can't imagine I'd ever reach the level of like the amount of audience he gets.
I like that you can see his face now, because for like the last 4 or 5 years I've been guessing what he looks like. In my head I'm like, he looks like yeast.
If you had a groom for production, of a wolf or something would you rather have their eyes closed? If you had to groom their eyes, yes, you need their eyes closed. Although normally you wouldn't groom with their eyes closed all the time, because generally speaking the bind pose should be as neutral as possible, and obviously eyes open is the neutral. So I'd recommend having like a blend shape or something you can turn on just to do guide work or brush work or whatever on the closed eyes, and you just saved it with open eyes. Granted, I don't know if that is the standard method with XGen, but I know that with many groom tools that would be how you do it. I'm not entirely sure how blend shapes work with XGen, or at least XGen Core. I know they work with XGen Interactive, but we don't talk about XGen Interactive here. Right, so I need a guide there. I'm going to pull this one by hand because it's already close enough. And then I need guide below that to start parting. So this one can just pull down. Yeah, I've seen the phone app thing. It's really cool. Arvid has a phone app for Look Devotus. It's literally just it's basically refractiveindex.info with extra info. I haven't personally used it, but I did look at it. It's pretty cool. I don't really do Look Dev that often, so I haven't needed something like that. But yeah, it gives you like the extinction coefficient and the colors to use.
Oh, that's cool.
It's called the Surface Database. This guide is way too long. In fact, he's not even in the ref. Why do I have him so big? Let's pull him out. And let's match this guide to him. Yeah, I think if I really wanted to grow this channel, I'd have to make some like structured tutorials, because most of the internet can't watch a 3-hour stream. Like either they just don't want to, or they can't find it interesting for that long. Grab you. Something like that. Oh, I got my favorite bug. Let me test something. Alt save. Yeah, okay, we've got my favorite bug. We need to kill Maya again. That one didn't last long. End process. Oh, not end process tree, just end task. Cool, and then let's get that launched. Just to let you guys know now as well, I'll be streaming tomorrow around the same time as today, 8 o'clock. Just because tomorrow's Tuesday, I always stream Tuesdays. So if anyone wants to catch this one at the beginning, that's where you can get it. On Tuesdays we stream. Let me just set the affinity of this guy. Cool. And then go back into Aces. Aces viewport anyway, not real Aces. Neck. I'm going to keep body hidden. Let's do a quick test render from this angle. I've got a feeling this silhouette's not going to be working. That looks quite straight to me. And not really in a good way either, it's just not working. I still got the light facing the wrong way. Extra dramatic lighting. Although it is kind of helping get this breakup, like we can see it a bit better. Let's just let that render out. I think this is actually not working as badly as I expected. I think the next stream will, even though we've got a lot to do on this other side, I think I'll work on the ears, just because the ears are fully symmetrical at the moment, so I can just work on one side and mirror it. In general, how's your working from home experience been? Has it gone smoothly? Yeah, I've enjoyed it. It's pretty cool. Everything's going pretty much as normal, and not sat next to people. The IT team did a really good job. Yeah, I think I quite like the breakup we got. This works better than I expected it to. And let's try, because we've done a few tweaks, let's try rendering that angle. Just see how the silhouette's doing. We can compare it to the previous frame. You don't really see the changes that much from this angle. This section would have changed a little bit. It's a bit sharper now, it pulls up. Would have been good to match the cameras, but kill that and keep working on it. There's another smaller one that we need to get here. As in like another smaller flick that we need to get. Show that again. Around about here, actually. So, this is going to get complicated. I say it's going to get complicated. It's not complicated. It's the same thing we've been doing for the most of the stream. It's just the amount of space in here means I've got to do quite a lot of guide work to get a defined shape, but also keep the old. Because naturally it's going to want to even out quite a lot. Let's do something like that. Pull that back a bit. I don't know why I'm using my mouse. Create you. I'm just going to target this guy. There's this guy here. And then pull him back. And let's add some guys in the general area and help them kind of even out a little bit. Because that's getting pulled in. We don't want that. We want something like that. Let's have it flow over it as well. So the hair's like parting around this clump. Guide below it. Let's do scale it up a little bit and then pull it forward. So again, it's kind of ignoring the influence of that because we want it to be not a stray, but we want it to be doing something different from the other hairs. Something like that will go. I just need some more guides in this area. It's very empty. Let's see if that works for now. Yeah, there we go. We got a little bit of a flick out there. We really need to fix this intersection. Do you have a stream schedule? Yes, but I tend to add to it. So in terms of my general schedule, if you go into my YouTube channel, the banner should show it, unless you're mobile, in which case it gets cropped out. So currently the schedule is Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays at 8 p.m. 8 p.m. London time, so GMT. But I often end up doing additional streams. It just depends on how much I want to work. So like tonight, for example, I just wanted to chill out and do some X-Gen. I didn't want to do really anything else, so I figured I might as well stream. Last night I wanted to do X-Gen, but I didn't want to stream. I just wanted to kind of, get some Spotify on or something, just kind of relax to it. But tonight I wanted to share a little bit. And I'm glad I did, to be fair, because if I did all this, today was kind of a day where the groom changed a lot. If I did this off stream, I think I'd get quite a few people who just like, what the fuck, why didn't you show us? And then I'd have to do it again, and that'd be annoying. Let's fix this. So we're going to need to add a guide. Let's say the... Yes, that's diving in. So fix that. So that'll fix some of them. Then let's add a guide there. Fix him. Cool. Then show the groom. So that's helping. It's not enough though. Well, that might be enough for now. Yeah, it softens it. That's all we need. We need some breakup at top. Currently it's all doing, that's not what I want. Currently it's all doing that, pretty much. So I need to get some clumps there. It doesn't have to be clumps, but I need to get something that's getting some interest in there. Yeah, getting some crisscrosses will help a bit, and then yeah, that helped a lot. So how are we gonna do that? So the guides are crossing, but not much. So let's force that a little bit. Let's just see if that on its own will start to introduce some of those shapes. Because we've already got a lot of guides at the top. So I want to avoid adding more guides if I can. That did basically nothing. If I grab you and pull you way off to the side as well, and compensate the height. Cool. I got a feeling this won't work. Let's get something actually. Surprising. So what if we force some more crossing? Let me save. What if we force some more crossing by pulling this guy forward? Well, not forward, but against the flow a bit. So let's snap him this way. And let's see if that gets some interesting shapes. Very little. I might need to follow it with some other guides. That's a problem, like, because it's all interpolated, like it averages out, so moving one guide often won't get a shape. You often have to move several together. It's getting something there. It's pretty subtle. The subtlety is all you need sometimes. Also, something I'm curious to try out. I also love how he looks without the head hair. It's kind of funny. Is how does guides to surface work? It's not what I expected. Oh, that's what I saved. Let's check how the peach fizz is doing as well. Let's turn that light around. I think the whiskers are the right subtlety now. I need to bend them a bit, give them a general flow with each other. Let's see how the peach fuzz is doing though. Cool. Kill that. So I'm going to add a little bit of flow variation to the whiskers. And I'm going to end the stream pretty soon, guys. I've been streaming for a while. So if anyone has any questions, please ask. Now's the time. In the meantime, I'm going to add some direction variation to all these guys. Again, not really caring what I do exactly, I just want to move them, do something with them. I need some more guides as well. Let's go there, 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 there. Just add an extra guide for each one. Give us a little bit more control. There we go. Get a bit of control over this now. I think it is a bit thicker. That's better. Just tested the blend check thing, it works with both interactive and action core. Cool. Got to hear it, man. Alright, so I'm going to start my end of day render. Let's get let's run an IPR. I need to turn on the body groom. I made some decent progress. This side's feeling a lot better. Obviously this one's not really doing anything different guide-wise. But I think as a whole it's working a lot better. Feels a bit more chaotic. Still feels a bit too much like a helmet. I need to sit it close to the head in some areas. But I think once we break up this side, that will help quite a lot with that. Yeah, so I'm going to end the stream here, guys. But yeah, I hope you've all had a decent night. I hope you've enjoyed it. I'll be on again tomorrow, 8 o'clock, same time as today. Hope to see you then. If not, then yeah, enjoy your time. Bye, guys.